The purpose of this video is to show the viewer what I think is the best kind of buys for ale. I'm going to say ale. I know the supermarket says ale and bitter, but I'm going to say ale. I mean, you could argue they're one of the same thing, really. But I think it's really difficult now to find a beer that is nice, that ticks every kind of box, because there's such a selection, and at the same time of there being a selection, there's not a selection at the same time. So it's quite tricky to sift the good from the bad. And here I'm looking at ASDA, which is, you know, a common supermarket across England. I'm not too sure about Scotland, and I'm not too sure about Wales, or even, I guess, Northern Ireland. I'd imagine it's quite similar. But obviously, as you can see, there's quite a range of ales, and I think where it does get tricky is everybody has different kinds of taste buds, and different ideas of what, you know, is good versus, say, bad. I'd guess, for want of a better way of you know, giving an indication of what's what. Now, my personal view is that any beer tastes better from, generally speaking, a glass bottle than it does from a can. I tend to find a can imparts a metallic flavour into a drink. Now, there are some people that would say, for instance, that Hobgoblin Ruby Ale beer tastes better out of the can than out of the bottle. I'm personally not a huge fan of Hobgoblin, and I think it does taste. I do think it does taste nice, but it's quite a heavy drink, so that's really why I'm not a huge fan of it. But having said that, and this is where it does get quite complicated in terms of assisting, you know, the person that wants to have a drink and enjoy their drink in terms of what they like, because there's heavy drinks and there's heavy drinks. So, scrolling through all of these, I will go back to the top again, and I will just look at actual ales, because I know there's some here that are not ales, and I will avoid the canned drinks. Not to say that some of these canned drinks aren't good, to be honest. Ignore the mixed bottled bag. So I do like Doombar, but I would say that Doombar is every bit as much a typical normal ale. It really doesn't have anything special or bad about it. So I would say that that's a safe drink to be drinking. And the other thing with Doombar, in fairness to Doombar as an ale, it's 4.3% by volume, so it's not a strong ale. You could have, unless you've got a really weak constitution for alcohol, you could have a few of them and have quite an enjoyable evening, afternoon, whatever you want. So getting back to it, I'll try not to click on all of the beers, because otherwise it's just going to affect the overview. I haven't drunk Newcastle Brown Ale in a long time, so I'm going to reserve judgment on that. I'm not going to include Krabby's. Now Krabby's as a drink is obviously not an ale. Now, I would say, personally, I avoid sweet drinks. So drinks like Krabby's and cider, I tend to avoid. Main reason for this is because I tend to find that they are not good for your teeth, and in some cases for your gut as well. I mean, for me, they do sort of tend to you know, give that gut rot sensation. Now, I really do like Timothy Taylor's Landlord Pale Ale. I think that is a really good starting point for somebody that wants to try ale who doesn't necessarily drink ale. I think that is a very good starting point, and I would recommend that, especially if you would say having, I don't know, a roast dinner, maybe a roast beef dinner or roast pork dinner or some kind of stew. Ghost Ship is another one. Now there is a debate on whether or not it's better out the can for this particular ale or out the bottle. I'm not sure there's much in it. I do like the citrusy flavour of Ghost Ship, and again with the Proper Job, they are quite similar in a way, but the Proper Job is a stronger drink. I like them both. I think if you like a citrusy type flavour, then they're good ones to go for. Now this Champion Ale beer by McEwan's, this is another one I actually like. It's a dark beer. It's quite strong. I believe it's around sort of 7%, and I'm going to have to click on this just to show you what it is. I believe it's around 7.3%. There you go. It definitely has Cold Winter's Night written all over it. Now, my main reason for not particularly liking this beer is because it is very strong. It's not something that you can have a session with particularly. I would say 2 of those, and if whatever else you have after that, you're not really going to know what you're drinking. That's my view. Shipyard American IPA beer. Now this to me falls in a sort of a cluster of IPAs that are very similar to one another. So the Shipyard, Hobgoblin, there is another one, but it doesn't look like it's on this page, and I don't really see the need to go to it. But there is a selection of IPAs in most supermarkets that are around the 5% mark in terms of their alcohol content, and they all taste the same. I mean, I do like an IPA. They do have that kind of citrusy type flavour, so I do like them. And I would say again, if they're in the sort of same category as the pale ale from Adnams, the Adnams Ghost Ship Pale Ale, and the Proper Job. But the Proper Job is a stronger drink, so and the Proper Job is also well, I suppose that you could say it's a real ale. It does have sediment in it. I would say the Proper Job is a superior ale to the Shipyard IPA, and the Hobgoblin one. That's not to say that they're not nice drinks. They are. I'd like to do a separate piece on wheat beer. I think wheat beer sort of needs its own category. Now this Bass beer, it used to be £1 in ASDA, and the price has gone up. I think that at £1 it's a worthy beer, but beyond that, I think it's too expensive for what it is. It's just it's similar sort of lines as the Banks beer, which is at the bottom of this page, which last time I checked it was less than £1. So I would go for Banks. If you're on a budget and you want an ale that's cheaper, I would go for Banks over the other one that I just showed you. The only thing I would say with these beers is when they get cheaper, they're cheaper because they have a weaker alcohol content. Some of these I've actually never drunk, so I'm not going to go too much into them. Just going back up. So Old Speckled Hen, it does have a certain taste that's unique, but again, I wouldn't say that it's anything too much different to Doombar. I would probably say that it's one of those ales that would go nice with sort of a typical sort of British meal, a pie, a roast dinner, some kind of meal with a good healthy meat content. Shepherd Neame bottle conditioned ale. It's a very good ale. It's very sort of strong in taste and flavour. Again, it's not one that I tend to drink because it is a strong ale. So if you just have a couple of those, it does sort of spoil any kind of follow-on from that. But again, if you're just going to have one or two, I would say they're a good one to try. But if you're a beginner to ale, I would say that a strong ale is not a good place to start. Again, the King Goblin is another one on the same sort of lines as that. Now, this Tribute Ale, I would say, is probably one of the best ales to start drinking. It's subtle in flavour. It doesn't taste gassy. It's not like a lot of lagers that you get where they're just gassy. I would say if they did a multi-pack of these in cans, then I would definitely be buying them. Now, they might already do, but it's not something that you see often in supermarkets. Guinness West Indies Porter, that's another nice drink, and it does have like a very chocolatey type taste. I would say in the supermarkets, if you looking for a drink that has a chocolatey taste as a dark beer, then you can't go wrong with West Indies Porter. I don't tend to drink dark beers because they do cause me problems in terms of my sort of health, because darker beers do tend to have a higher oxalate content in them than paler beers, but that's the story for a different time. Old Peculiar, again, it's a strong ale. It's along the same kind of lines as the King Goblin and Shepherd Neame. Nothing wrong with it. It does have a unique taste. It is sort of a cold winter's night ale. Definitely a cold winter's night ale. I don't know if they still do it, but they used to put a little sort of short story on the back of their bottles. I'm not sure if they still do it. Oak Aged Vintage, that's kind of a stronger version of Old Speckled Hen. Again, probably along the same sort of lines as the Old Peculiar and the King Goblin. Abbott Ale, typical ale. You'll get it obviously in like pubs like Wetherspoons. If you like an ale that's strong but not as strong as the others, then Abbott Ale is a good place to start. I find that it's a little bit too strong to be what you might call a session ale. Now, Thirsty Ferret, these beers by Badger, I don't tend to like them. I don't really know why, but I've never really liked any of their beers. Again, Broadside is another dark beer which is strong, which again is, as I keep saying, it's cold winter's night. It's not something that you would drink in as a session drink. Badger, I've never really been a fan of Badger Ale. Buttyback, I've had it a long time ago. It wasn't really something that's particularly memorable. Now, Black Sheep Ale does have a popularity and a following, but it's never really been something that I've particularly enjoyed or found distinctive. That's not to say that I disenjoyed it. It's just something that I've not particularly found enjoyable. Wainwright, well, they're giving it five people are giving it a 5-star review on average. I'm not too sure about that. It's not a beer that I've drunk. Now, this beer is actually a really good India Pale Ale. It has a real intense flavour. But having said that, it is also a strong one. I believe that it's over 6%. Let's just check that. 6.1%. So it is a strong IPA. Probably one of the stronger ones you can get in ASDA's. But having said that, it is a nice IPA. It does sort of almost have, well, I say almost, it does have like a craft beer type flavour to it. I'm going to stick my neck out on the line there and say that. To me, it does anyway. Again, taste is a very subjective affair. What some people like, others don't like. I really do like Marston's Old Empire India Pale Ale. It is a stronger one. I believe it is over 5% but under 6. And it does have a real oldie worldly flavour to it. I do like that one. And yeah, it's worth a try, but it's not somewhere that I would start if I was going to start getting into drinking ale. It's a long time since I've had East Coast Green King IPA. I would probably say that would be a good place to start for an ale, just because I believe that is a weaker alcohol content. So let's just check that. Yep, four by volume. So again, it's one of the weaker ales. I would definitely not recommend, if you're new to ale drinking, to get one of these these stronger ales. It might put you off for life. London Pride is a very typical ale. I used to drink a lot of London Pride, haven't as much in recent times. There's no real kind of, it's almost like Doombar. There's no real kind of distinctness about it. But then having said that, sometimes that's what you want. You don't want strong flavours all of the time. These back-ender ales on this page after the East Coast IPA, I've never really tried any of these, and probably if I have, there's a reason I haven't tried them again. So I don't think that they're kind of ales that are worth particularly exploring. Now, this banana bread beer I actually used to get a lot, and I do like it, I must say. However, I don't believe it's genuine banana bread that is used in making this ale. I think that there's definitely a taste of synthetic banana in there, much like banana flavoured Angel Delight, which is like a dessert where you make you get the banana flavour powder. It's almost like a whipped dessert where the powder's banana flavour and you mix it with milk and it creates some kind of, I suppose, mousse. And I think that's I've discussed. Now, Spitfire, I would say there are some supermarkets that do this for £1 a bottle. If you can get this for £1 a bottle, I would say Spitfire is a very good place to start for a normal tasting ale without any kind of taste that's citrusy or overly rich. And this is probably one of the reasons why I'm not that keen on Bishop's Finger. I find it slightly too strong. So it's not something that I tend to enjoy drinking. Let's have a look and see what's on page 2. Not a lot. So I think, all in all, if I was going to recommend which of these to drink, and I'm gonna go double sworded here, double edged. So I'm gonna say if I can get back to the right page, which it looks like I've now lost. I'm going to say that if you want to drink ale on a budget, I mean these are all pretty much the same price. So I would avoid ale if sort of £1.80 or 4 for free is too expensive for you. So my sort of top picks to try as an ale drinker, or if you wanted to get into drinking ales, is I want to start from the top. I don't want to sort of keep going up and down. So I would say Doombar, just because it's a popular ale, not necessarily because I of any sort of inclination I have towards it. I mean, other people, it must be popular for a reason for a lot of people to like it. It doesn't really stand out for me, but as I say, it is a popular ale. I would say Timothy Taylor's Pub Landlord, definitely something to try. Proper Job, definitely something to try. But if you're after an ale that's not too strong, then I would avoid that at first. And I would say, over them all, I would say go for Tribute as a first option. Try that one. I'm not saying it's the best, but it's the most, I'd say it's the most rounded ale out of all of the ones here on this particular page. And obviously there's different supermarkets that offer different ales and ultimately beers. I do like these two IPAs. I do like the Old Empire and I do like the Classic Collection IPA, but I wouldn't recommend these for a beginner. If you want something a bit quirky and you don't mind a taste that could potentially be artificial, then I would definitely say give this banana bread beer a go. It tastes like no other beers that I've tried, if nothing else. The honey ale, I forgot to mention this, I've had honey ale before, and for me, it didn't do it. It didn't really taste that much like honey. So out of all of these, I would probably say, and these are sort of typical ales, they're not what you would class as craft beers, they're your typical ales. So I would probably say start off with Tribute and work your way around into the other ales, and chances are if you don't like Tribute or it doesn't do it for you, then it might be that the rest of them don't do it for you either. I mean, the supermarkets do tend to offer, if you like something fruity, the